On this episode of Locked On Angels, Arte Moreno spoke by telephone this past Saturday to the Southern California News Group on a wide range of topics, including the offseason plan, what the payroll will be next season, and the plan for 2025. So what did he say? Well, we're here to share, and then we're going to explain it. We're going to interpret it. We're going to talk about it. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Time to subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city. Book today on Booking.com. They are the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball, Monday through Friday, every single weekday, even into the offseason. There's always so much to talk about with this team. In fact, because of news that comes out over the offseason, it gives us more and more to talk about amongst our everydayers and our Angels fans. In fact, Arte Moreno spoke over the weekend, as you mentioned, Mike, and so we're going to get into that today, and we'll push off our roster report cards until tomorrow. So deadline extended, class. You have another day to get your grades in for the 2024 Angels roster, and we'll be covering that the next 4 days. Of course, want to give a quick shout out. We had the Ohapi All-Star Bowl, Mike, such a awesome event. Not only did we get to meet Logan and Gooby and Michael Araujo and Erica Weston and Angelo Ohapi and Ohapi's family, but I really love the fact that we got to hang out with our everydayers. We had David, Jared, Colton, John, James, Gabriella. Of course, we had the OC dugout there as well. So yeah, just a great day of hanging with everybody, talking baseball. And I think it's so much fun to meet the people that, listen to the show or watch the show and then actually just get to meet in person and talk baseball, right?
Yeah, a lot of fun. I won the first set. I bowled a 187.
Oh, are we doing that?
Yeah, we're doing that. Did
okay.
You win the second one? No, you didn't win the second one, did you?
I think I won the second one. Well, here's the thing.
Our nephew did.
Listen, when it comes to, bowling, you got to look for areas of growth. And even though it was a losing record for me, I'm still going to look at the areas of development and the ways that I got. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to relate it back to this 63 and 99 season the Angels had. But Mike, that's kind of what we're getting into here. Already spoke about, the job that Perry has done. He's talked about the young players. This is his first interview since before spring training.
Right.
And he began by talking about last season and the plan for 2025. Let's get into it.
Yeah, he had specific instructions for Perry Minasian this offseason. He said, here are the instructions. Build a team that can compete for a playoff spot. Man, it sounds like Artie has been listening to Locked On Angels. and reason why I believe that is because he said, when you get to the playoffs, anything can happen, right? And so if you even just sneak in like the Detroit Tigers or like the Kansas City Royals, if you kind of sneak in there, you can really go on a run. Now, he did caveat all of that, Johnny, with this statement. The plan is only for 2025. Now, do you think that this is a strategy? This is a business strategy. This is hey, let me satisfy you or pacify you so that maybe it'll give me some street cred and some credibility so that we can suck the next couple of years after that.
Right. Listen, one of our everydayers, I don't want to mention by name because I don't want to get him or her in trouble, but they had a great theory that they shared with us. And it was essentially, Artie is a marketing guy and an advertising agency. And he said, and what's the shelf life of any marketing campaign? Not very long. And when you have a marketing campaign, it's usually, a few months long, maybe even a year long. And that's kind of how he runs this business, right? Like as an advertising thing where it's like, all right, here we go. Here's our marketing campaign for 2025. This year, it's going to be, let's compete for a playoff spot and not think beyond that. And so I think that's why there has been not a lot of foresight. It's what can we get right now or in the immediate next couple of months. And that just made so much sense to me.
That's
Thought
brilliant.
It was brilliant. Yeah. And so when I think about, what they're going to do for 2025 and competing for a playoff spot, look, we've talked about how the supporting cast kind of needs those heavy hitters now. And I don't think it would take much, but it's going to be interesting because there is some areas of development that still need to be addressed. There are still areas, within the minor leagues that need to be addressed in development and player development and whatnot. I'm just repeating myself now. But what I'm saying is when you think about this roster in 2025, we've talked about how they need the supporting cast needs some heavy hitters. I think the supporting cast can and will get better, should get better. And in addition, I don't think it would take much to just add a couple of pieces to get there. I know that the starting rotation is in desperate need of something, but I honestly think one big bat, I think could make a huge difference. Maybe not a playoff difference, but a difference at the least.
Yeah. And so in thinking about that, Arte said in order to compete for a playoff spot, he is going to give the go ahead on the 2025 payroll to go up. Now, the question is, how much will it go up? We know last year the Halos slashed about $40 million from the payroll, and a lot of that was Shohei Ohtani, right? That payroll that year, remember when they barely exceeded the luxury tax, and then they were terrible, and then they sent people away, right? Now, Arte said that the Angels would be spending more in 25 than they did in 2024, although it wouldn't be as much as they did in 2023. He said, we won't go there again. It's just an automatic loss. If I start piling up financial losses, then the next year I'm going to cut. And then he continued and said, teams that are spending the money they're spending right now, they're losing a lot of money, not a little bit of money. They're losing a lot of money. And some teams are selling equity to keep their payroll up. So, John, there's a lot there, but the question I have for you is payroll going up, not like 2023, but bigger than 2024. So where do you think it sits at 2025?
Yeah, where are they at now? Like 180 million probably with arbitration.
With arbitration and some of the deals that they have in there. Yeah, minor league contracts, things like that. Yeah, I think it would be about 180. There's
a world where, I think on the predicted arbitration salaries from MLB Trade Rumors, Taylor Ward got about 9.5. I mean, if you can shed $10 million by trading away a Taylor Ward, I mean, that's kind of something you could do. He's definitely referring to the Padres, right? Remember the Padres were kind of in a stink with payroll and paying for things. I mean, it doesn't help that Bally's didn't pay their bills to the Padres last season, but
sure,
I think they're going to be doing just fine. But when he talks about these teams at a financial loss, I can understand where a financial loss comes from. But if you're the marketing guy, if you're the genius, you figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, just because you spend a lot doesn't mean you're losing a lot of money either.
Well, here's what it feels like. It feels like instead of going, here's what we can do, he has communicated what we can't do. And he's used that one team. Let's say it's the Padres. Maybe there's more than one team. We don't know. He didn't state it. But he uses the one team that's struggling to go, see why we can't do that? Right? Instead of going, hey, did you see what Kansas City did? And did you see what the Tigers have done? And did you see, right? Like even the Mets, they got rid of a big payroll and then they adjusted and then they made the playoffs, right? And so that's the stuff that if you're good at what you do, you see that and go, okay, I know that bottom line, and I'm with him. I get that he doesn't want to lose a ton of money. I understand that. It is a business at the end of the day. However, you can get really creative in what you do. And sometimes you can put really excellent things together with duct tape and staples. And that's what the Angels could potentially do with this team. Now, that doesn't mean that you go and have a Mike Trout and then you have a quad A player, right? Like the Royals proved this last offseason that you can get good quality Major League Baseball players and not have to break the bank because they're not a huge financially set team, yet they played so well. And that's the thing that really, I think, if I had to select one thing that really bugs me about Arte in this conversation, it's here's here's why we can't do it instead of here's what we can do, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to use this one bad example as the example of why we can't do it.
Here's the thing that you and I, on that point that you just made, here's the thing that you and I have been wanting for a while. We just want to hear from Arte Moreno. Fans want to hear from Arte Moreno. Now, do you trust him? Do you don't trust him? That's a different conversation. But at the very least, I'm glad that he's speaking. Yeah. And I'm also glad that there's direction, Mike. And for the first time in a long time, there's been some direction in the sense that, hey, I'm telling Perry to make sure we can contend for a playoff spot. Now, whether that happens or doesn't happen, totally a different conversation. Now, to say, this is what I'm telling him to do, this is what we aim for, this is what we hope for, that's all we've wanted to know.
That's true.
And the fact is that if they had just told us, we've said this many times, if they had just told us in 2024 that this was going to be a development year, great. Yep. Then I would know what to expect. Right. I would know that it wouldn't be a winning season. I would know this. I would know that. You and I, of course, had no expectations for this season. And this is where they ended up at 63 and 99. But if they had just stated that, you know what, bringing in Ron for this first year, it's going to take a lot of growth for this team to get where we want to go. That sort of thing. They'll never do that. They'll never do that. However, this is something, and again, take it with a grain of salt. It's Arte Moreno. He says that he wants a playoff contender, but he's got to back it up with action, and that action comes through Perry Minasian. Mike, I mentioned it last week when I think about what they saw in Carlos Estevez. They said, hey, there's a reliever, and if we get him out of Colorado, he can be something special for us. And he was. Yeah. And now he's on the Phillies, and he's competing for a playoff spot, or I should say for the World Series, right? And I look at what the Mets did. They got Sean Manaea, who was having a terrible season in 2023. He wasn't even starting at some point. He was in the bullpen. They tweaked something. And I want to say, I could be wrong. I think it was maybe a sinker. I think maybe they added that or something. And look what he's done this season. He's helped carry the Mets to the postseason when everybody was kind of riding off the Mets at the trade deadline. Do they buy? Do they sell? Do they this? Do they that? I thought they should have bought. They did buy. And they even traded for Jesse Winker. That was the suggestion I made. And now here they are. And so all of that to say, it wouldn't take much to add to this roster in terms of, hey, you got to fix that rotation. And if they can't spend on a Corbin Burns, then maybe you find next year's Sean Manaea. And you find somebody that if you just tweak this a little bit, you just do this, maybe you add this pitch or get them to stop throwing this pitch. If the Angels are able to do something like that, I think that they could find somebody like a Sean Manaea type to really help them out next year. I don't know if that means playoffs. I wouldn't say so, but at the same time, it's a step forward. And for me, I think that this is not reassuring. I don't want to sit here and believe everything Arte is going to say, but at the same time, at least it's a plan and it's a direction, when last year there really wasn't a direction unless it was coming from Ron Washington. We know how that worked out. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up on Locked On Angels, Arte spoke about the potential of selling the team. Where does he stand with that right now? We'll get into all of that coming right up.
I talked to one of our everydayers at the Ohapi Bowl, and he was talking about collecting cards. And of course, I told him about how you and I collect cards. And that's why I love Arena Club. And I think our everydayers will love Arena Club. It's for card collectors, and card collectors, we don't want to spend so much money because we don't have the money to spend on cards, which is why with Arena Club, you can get a slab pick from arenaclub.com, and it's possible for you to score great cards for a fraction of their retail price. Arena Club provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear rates for each one. In fact, the packs are revolutionized. They've revolutionized the repack game with transparency. So after your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed into a showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, it's fast, transparent, and with a full grade rationale provided, an explanation of how your card was scored. So whether you're into buying, selling, trading, or displaying your cards, Arena Club is the card collecting platform that you need to check out. And right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pick or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB, and you can use our promo code LockedOnMLB for that 10% off. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB. Use our promo code LockedOnMLB for 10% off your first purchase.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And everydayers, did you happen to see our video of the highlights of the Ohapi All-Star Bowl? If you did, and you saw some of the Super Halo Bros shirts that were going around, hey, you know what? Maybe Logan will sneak one on to the broadcast at some point, or maybe Erica Weston or Gooby or somebody. We were able to give out some of those shirts to our everydayers who showed up. And if you'd like to support Mike and I directly, there's a link in the episode description where you can get your own Super Halo Bros merch as well. We've got some great t-shirts. We've got different designs, different graphics and whatnot, even some stickers too. I've been placing the Super Halo Bros stickers all over the place. Put one on my Switch controller. So I know it's mine. It's
You're 12 still.
Hey, exactly. I love stickers. So grab a shirt or any kind of Super Halo Bros merch. There's a link in the episode description. Grab a shirt, wear it proudly. And again, it'll support Mike and I directly. We would love for your support in that.
Johnny, in the interview with Arte Moreno last Saturday, he acknowledged something that you talked about in the first segment, the growth of the young core. He spoke about Neto, Shawnuel, Ohapi, and others, not by name, but just said the young core. And he said, we are really showing a lot of talent available going forward than we've had the last few years. He continued and said that I feel like we have had a lot of growth with our young players. He acknowledged that there are various publications that have consistently ranked the Angels farm system as one of the worst in the majors. And he said, I disagree with their assessment. He said, look at the roster and you can see how many homegrown players we have playing for us. And when people look at our system, they say, oh, geez, they've got this low-rated system, but why do we continue to produce major league players? And that was a quote from Artie. He is saying, look at all of these players that we have. So he's kind of in that same vein. I think of a lot of everydayers and a lot of fans that are like, no, we're not as bad as people make us out to be in the minor leagues. There are some tweaks that have been made, and that is a nod to Perry Minasian. But Artie continued and said, we need to find a mix of players that are going to win. We have to win. At the end of the day, it's all measured by wins and losses. So, John, would this indicate that maybe Artie's moving towards the wins and losses barometer, that metric, or is this just kind of talk to make us feel a little bit better?
Well, I can tell you that he is totally embarrassed to have the worst franchise record in Angels history, and it's under his watch, Mike. It's under his regime, and he gave credit to Perry Minasian for finding and growing the young players. But the other thing I take issue with, I agree in the sense that I don't think the farm system is as bad as everybody makes it out to be and whatnot. But to say you developed Zach Neto, you developed Nolan Shawnuel, you developed Logan Ohapi, not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite, because Logan Ohapi came from the Phillies. Zach Neto came right from college, played in the minors, got called up. Same thing with Nolan Shawnuel. And these guys are developing at the major league level. So on one hand, I understand the idea that, hey, maybe our farm system would be better if these guys were still in it and counted toward that. But at the end of the day, you didn't develop them.
They didn't cook down there. Yeah,
they didn't. No, absolutely not. Now, are there good things happening now? I think so. I think about like Caden Dana and some of the relief core that's going to be helpful to the Angels in the future. I think there are very good things. The Dominican League is really firing on all cylinders. Jared Timms does a great job on Twitter covering all the Dominican players in the league for the Angels, and there's some good guys. So it is a matter of good drafts, good trades, and good international scouting and international signings. But as far as the main roster, like it's wrestling, as far as the major league roster goes, it's these guys didn't cook in the Angel system. But that doesn't mean there isn't cooking happening right now.
Right. Now, Artie did admit that they're trying to patch holes with free agency, something that we briefly addressed in the first segment, but he actually went into detail. He said it just hasn't worked for them. And then he shared something interesting, John. They tried to sign JD Martinez this last offseason. They offered him a deal 1 year, somewhere around $12 million, nothing deferred. And he signed with the Mets, and he actually had to defer his contract. He only made about $4.5 million this year. It was a $12 million deal, but he only got $4.5 million this year. Artie said, we thought he was coming. We thought he'd be a really great fit for our designated hitter spot. But Martinez obviously didn't take it, and he signed with the Mets. So, John, could we read into that just a little bit for a moment? Is that maybe how some veteran free agents feel about the Angels? Because there's been comments this offseason about the Angels. There are fans who are like, nobody's coming here. Like, what do you think the reality is here?
Mike, what's JD Martinez doing right now?
He's playing for the Mets.
And
in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm him, of course I'm going to the Mets in the offseason, especially with the fact that, Ohtani walked and the Angels had a lot of guys going to free agency. It wasn't going to be the same team and whatnot. I wouldn't want to play for the Angels over the 2023-24 offseason. I don't think I would have wanted to sign here unless they showed me something, right? And I think JD knew that he had a better chance with the Mets. Yeah, they didn't do great last year, but they brought in David Stearns to help with the ball club and become president of baseball operations. They made some necessary moves like trading Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander and getting, Ronald Acuna Jr.'s brother in return and Luis Angel Acuna. And so if I'm looking at those two organizations, I'm like, all right, well, what's going to get me at my age to the playoffs more quickly? And so that totally makes sense that JD went there. But to get back to your question about how veterans feel about the Halos have to show them something. And I think that baseball players are smarter than looking at the record of 63 and 99 and seeing how many games the Angels lost and going, I don't know. Now, they could be smarter than that and see, hey, Ohapi, Adele, like some of the pitching, they got some good stuff there. That's totally up to the player. And they might just be looking for that last contract too.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned it last week, Blake Snell could be looking for, what's the contract he's going to get that's going to set him right for the next 7 to 10 years. And he can retire and finish out his career. All of that to say, I think players do look at the organization, and the word is out there on how dysfunctional it's been. And if the Angels don't want that, they're going to have to really turn some things around. And I think it does start with a young core of players. I think it starts with showing that, hey, there's a lot of guys here that are ready to win and contribute. And if we just have the JD Martinez types, that could be a big change for them.
Last topic for this segment, Artie did talk about extending Perry Minasian. He said he appreciates the communication with Perry, also with Ron Washington. They talk every day. He said his satisfaction with Perry was largely because of this young core and how he brought them in. And then he reiterated that they're looking at 2025, possibly 2026 as times to contend. And the goal, though, is to be in the playoffs in 2025. Johnny, a question about that, and it's something that just kind of came into my mind, was if they are only looking at 2025 and they're going to try to sign some free agents, do you anticipate any long-term contracts then with any of these free agents, or is it going to be a piecemeal deal?
Yeah, I'm just getting frustrated thinking about it. I don't think you're going to make much of an impact if you don't sign a guy to at least a 4-year deal or a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are some guys out there that are, in terms of arms or whatnot, some of them need to take a bounce back deal or some of them need to take a short-term deal. And I don't think that it's out of the question to sign maybe an arm for next year. And it's a 1-year thing. But I think the older these guys get, the more they're looking for that long-term, this is my last contract. I'm going to give everything I have now because I don't know how much time I have left. And so, yeah, it's tricky because, again, he thinks in the short term, and he just got saying like, we've tried to plug holes with free agents. Well, it sounds like you want to do more of the same, and that concerns me. Now, getting somebody like a Drury on a 2-year deal, I know Drury was awful this year, but last year it looked like a great signing. That kind of thing makes sense to me, but I think if you're going to make an investment in a starting pitcher somewhere, it's got to be at least 2 to 3 years, right? Like a Tyler Anderson kind of deal. And so, to not look beyond 2025 is concerning, but it just goes to show, Mike, I don't think that we're going to get any, and they mentioned this already, I don't think we're going to get any long-term Mike Trout, Rendon kind of deals where these guys are an Angel for life, right? And I don't think that he's going to spend the money for that either. But it's not to say that there aren't arms out there that could make a difference, or even bats out there that could make a difference on a short-term deal. I just think the Angels have no leverage, and they have to make an appealing offer. And if they aren't making appealing offers, then they're not going to get anyone, and it's just going to be a lot of fluff. So I hope that there's some self-reflection there. I hope that Arte understands that if you can't make a good offer, then you're not going to get anybody here, and you can't just rely on the fact that, oh, we're the Angels, and like you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that, hey, we have to make this really appealing for anybody to want to come here in 2025.
If any free agents want to sign with the Angels, they can use booking.com, booking.yeah. They can explore all the U.S. cities, including Anaheim. And we know they want to come to Anaheim. Come on, don't you want to come to Anaheim? We have Locked On Angels. We're the Super Halo Bros. You're going to love it here, right? Hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, so much more on booking.com. You, everydayer, just might find the perfect stay, including your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to test your baseball competition's stadium cuisine, and with booking.com, you can find the right stadium stay that's just right for you. They have a wide variety of choices across the United States. You can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Booking.com, booking.yeah.
And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and they want you to be a smart bettor, and you can be so on the app. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So be smarter and win big with FanDuel. You can get started right now with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Maybe get into some Monday Night Football, maybe place a little wager on the game, get on FanDuel. You can do it all right now on FanDuel.com.
Just looking at my bank account real quick, because the next question that they asked Arte in that conversation was, will he ever sell the team? And he said, if someone makes a stupid, crazy offer, I'm not going to be able to do that, John. I just looked at my
same
bank
here.
account.
It'll be stupid, but it won't be crazy.
It will be. Yeah. Can we make a stupid offer?
Yeah.
He did say, I've got to do what's best for the family, which I thought was interesting. And then he said, I'm just going to do the best that I can to run the business. And there it is. Running it as a business, right? Isn't this why the team should be sold? Mm-hmm. So Arte also addressed the ballpark developmental deal, and that was with the city in 2022. They had Arte agreed with the city of Anaheim on a deal to purchase the ballpark, develop the surrounding area, and then the deal was killed because the former mayor became embroiled in this corruption scandal on that deal, Johnny. And I thought you'd appreciate this. Arte said, I'm not telling you that we don't have plans to revisit it, but it just felt like there had to be a cooling period. They're the ones that shot me down. It wasn't like I did something. The mayor did something. And so you've talked about this more than I've talked about this. And I love that letter.
That letter we found in Artie's outbox doesn't sound too far off now.
It was them.
Mike? Yeah.
Yeah. He did, ask, he was asked how long the cooling period could be. And Arte said, I have no idea. There is a new mayor and there is a new thought process. And so obviously there's not really any clarity as to what needs to happen with that, but that stadium conversation needs to happen sooner rather than later, right?
Well, and the fact it's been 2 years, right? Yeah. And for him to say, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, Harry Sidhu wanted a $1 million bribe, a campaign donation to make things easier on you. Are you not complicit in that? Are you, did you give him $1 million? Did you not? What'd you do? Because it sounds like there's something worth investigating there. And I think it's silly to say, well, it's all his fault.
Yeah.
But it's like you complied with what he wanted you to do. So that the FBI is not involved just for kicks and giggles, Mike. It's the FBI investigating this. So it took two to tango there. So I think it's a really silly notion that, it's not like I did something. I think what a hilarious quote. It wasn't like I did something.
Yeah. Yeah. Lastly, Artie said that he wasn't expecting any significant impact on the team or fans from the bankruptcy proceedings involving Diamond Sports. Of course, they have Valley Sports West, and so he didn't think that there would be any sort of significant impact. But like that again, it's kind of ambiguous. But it is good to hear that at least from in Artie's mind, it's not going to dictate what he might do, at least on the surface. So, hearing all of this, John, how would you summarize this interview maybe in one sentence?
Grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Because, we've heard Artie wants to be competitive. We've heard it from him. We've heard it from, AM 830 and all of that. We always hear that all the time. He wants to compete in 2025. He's telling Perry to do what he can to compete in 2025. And it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to do it.
Yeah.
And if there's any lesson to be learned here, it's that we go through this every year. It's always said in different ways and in different words, Mike, but at the end of the day, it's all kind of the same thing. Until you show me that you actually want to be competitive, I'm taking it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Look, like I said in the first segment, at least it's a direction. At least it's words. At least it's something. It's better than being ambiguous. It's better than being silent. It's better than not talking to the media and actually delivering on something in terms of what they want 2025 to look like. So again, before we've heard this song and dance before, oh, we're going to compete. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Or playoffs is our goal. And they never made it. And it was always a total disaster. So this doesn't move me. I take it with a grain of salt, but I am appreciative of the fact that at least it's a direction. It's not like last year where there really wasn't any word on what they were trying to do. And again, I think it comes down to you think that you're going to be able to add pieces that you want to make this team competitive. I don't see it happening with the free agent market in terms of major signings or anything like that. Mike, there might be a lot of trades. We might have to say goodbye to somebody that we're really excited about. Yeah. I certainly hope it's not like a Neto or an Ohapi or anything like that. But yeah, it'd be foolish. So I don't know how they plan to get around this. But yeah, in one sentence, grain of salt, and I will sit here with my arms folded until they show me that something is actually going to happen. What about you? One sentence, sum it up for me.
My favorite quote from Monster Zeke: "I'm always watching." And so I'm gonna pay close attention. I'm gonna pay close attention to see what they do, and my expectations are. I'm gonna temper my expectations because me, in my mind, competing for a playoff might be very different than what their strategy is. And so I'm going to watch closely and see if they actually do what it is that they say they're going to do, and do it in a way that would keep them in a position where it actually is competitive and it isn't just filling this roster with big names from years ago, right?
Yeah. Let's be real here. There are a lot of positions that they need to fill. I think, some people might consider Christian Moore for second base, maybe Rengifo over at third, but we haven't seen Christian Moore yet. And if you want to be competing for a playoff spot in 2025, Christian Moore's great. I think he's going to be awesome, but I don't know if you want to rely on that going into 2025. The rotation needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
And it's not as if the rotation is absolutely terrible, because you can rely on a Jose Soriano or Kohanowitz, and even, first half Tyler Anderson is going to be good for you, but you've got to have at least 10 to 12 pitchers ready to go for you. And I think you need a couple more reliable arms there. So there are big question marks around this team. I don't think it's going to be solved with one or two additions in free agency. I think that one or two bats could help turn the lineup around in a lot of ways, but I think the biggest need is definitely the rotation. I think the bullpen's fine. I think they have plenty of depth in the minor leagues to turn to the bullpen. Plus, we've seen how the young bullpen has stepped up, and even down in the minors, they're doing really great things. So there's going to be a lot that needs to take place to turn this ship around, and I will be shocked and surprised if they are able to do that over this offseason.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB with our friend Soli. He's going to get you ready for the World Series. Playoffs are happening right now. He'll have all the details for you. And you can watch his show on YouTube or listen to his show wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show, get in the comments section on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 8,000 subscribers. We'd love for you to help us out with that. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Okay, we're going to grade the players. We're going to do it for real this time.
For real?
Unless there's no breaking news, but
Unless
we're going to do this for
sells
real.
the team.
Yes, this is going to happen. We're going to do this. The test is tomorrow. So make sure you click the link in the episode description and you can help us grade the players. And we're going to have a good conversation for the rest of the week. That'll be tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
My hand still is like sore from bowling that 187
Your wrist hurt?
and winning the first set.
Oh, go ice your